In last lecture, we have created a new function called fetch API, which is responsible to make a request and fetch a data from the server. In this lecture, we'll be doing huge changes. We'll be integrating the server I have prepared for you into our application, so they are working together, and we'll be fetching the data from our new server. Okay, so how we can start? We can start by going to our browsers. And already in the resources of this lecture, you can find the link here to this address, or you can just simply write it. It's not hard. github.com/irga99/next-shopify-local. This is a Shopify local server I have prepared for you. So it's basically a fake server that's replicating the functionality of the Shopify. So you will not need even to set up your Shopify account, and you will be able to test out some of the Shopify functionalities. And that's the purpose of this server, just to test out some functionalities and later create a Shopify account, trial free version for 2 weeks, and try to integrate it with our applications. And actually, that should be very simple because we will be able to test out everything on our local version. You will see. Okay, for this, guys, of course, you need to have your GitHub accounts. If you don't have a GitHub account or you're not planning to create one, I would highly suggest you to really create a GitHub account. You can also find a link to this project in the description of this video. You can just simply download the zip file of this server. Okay, it should be very simple. Okay, so if you are already here on the Next Shopify local, you have 2 options. You can either click here on the code and you can either download the zip, which means you need to after that unzip it. You need to navigate in your terminal and you need to run these commands. I will go through these commands with you. Okay, I'll go the cloning way. Of course, you can do everything by just downloading the code, remember. Okay, so simply copy the link. I'm using SSH because I set up my SSH key. If you don't have, you can just go with the HTTPS. Okay, no big deal. Okay, so let's copy it. Let's go to our terminals. Okay, and let's open here a new window. Okay, so you have a new window where your Next.js application is running, right? Here is our development server of the Next.js. I will open here a new window by pressing together Command and the T key, or Control and the T. This should open a new tab here. I will go to my Udemy projects. You can navigate wherever you want, and I will write here git clone. Okay, I don't want to initialize it inside of my Next.js application. It should be outside of the Next.js in my generic project folder somewhere. Okay, somewhere outside. So I'm in my Udemy projects. I'm writing here git clone. I'm pasting here Next Shopify local. It can stay like this. I will press enter, and it will clone my entire code from my GitHub repository into Next Shopify local. Now I will navigate to the Next Shopify local. So cd Next Shopify local. All right, and let's run here simply npm install. This will install dependencies, and after that we can start our server. This server is specifying GraphQL API. So when we want to communicate with the server, we need to provide valid GraphQL query from our Next.js application. I will be talking very shortly about it. Okay, so but first let's try it out. Let's write here a node, or actually let's write here npm start. Okay, so as soon as you will run npm start, you should see here server ready at http localhost 4000/GraphQL. So let's see this. This will be our testing, or it will be our endpoint from which we'll be fetching our data. So let's copy this endpoint. Let's go to our browsers, and we'll be testing it out. So when you will open it here, actually you will see dashboard, or actually this will be this workspace for a GraphQL where we can test out our query. So first, we need to understand how GraphQL works. And if you already know how GraphQL works, you are free to skip this lecture, but this lecture will take maybe a little bit longer than usual lectures because I need to really explain you what you can do with this server. Okay, so here in the GraphQL, before we'll try any queries here, I will show you data this server is specifying. Okay, so let's go to our coding editors, and actually I will open the second coding editor where I will open this server code. Okay, so I'll open here a new file or a new window, and in a new window I will open my server code. Okay, so let's go to Udemy projects. All right, and let's open here Next Shopify local. And one more thing, guys, your development server of a Next.js should coexist with your server here, a GraphQL server. So in one terminal here will be running our development Next.js, in other one will be running our API server, GraphQL API server. Okay, so now we can go back. Okay, actually here to our code, and I will show you some of the code here I specified. So this API server is very simple one, okay? Don't expect big things here, okay? So what we will do here is we will go to a data, and in this data, index.json, this all the data this API server specifies. So that's, you can treat this file, index.json, as a database. This is a database of a product we are defining. You can see here we have a product, and a product is a simple array of a products which are specifying ID of the product, handle of the product, which is something like a slug, title, vendor, description of the product, description HTML, price range, options. Oops, let's revert these options, and all of this we'll be talking about this later in your after the lecture, or maybe you can want to stop now and you want to inspect everything here. And I will be talking again more about this later. I don't want to now pollute this lecture with the explanation of this file, but you can check this file what we are specifying here. So that's the treating as a database. Really, you don't need to understand the code I am defining here, okay? You don't need to understand this code at all. It's just one big file specifying GraphQL queries and the functions that are responsible to fetch a data from a JSON file and provide it to you, okay? You don't really need to understand the GraphQL for the purpose of this course. You just need to understand how we can fetch a data from a GraphQL. This doesn't need to concern you. If you want, of course, you can check it out. It's a very rough sketch of the server. I'm planning to rework it later, but it's working, okay? So we have these guys, okay? So now with these informations that we know that we have a data here, I will show you how GraphQL works, okay? So let's go to our browsers. And here you can see this terminal. In here, the GraphQL works following. GraphQL, our GraphQL server specify the set of the queries, all right? And the data these queries are returning, and the shape of the data these queries are returning. So if I want to fetch my data from a database, I need to provide here a valid GraphQL query. Okay, I need to make a request. Normal request, as you saw before, I need to make a GET request. Actually, it's not a GET request, it's a POST request in this case. So we are making POST request, and we are providing here a query that will provide the information to get the GraphQL, how to fetch the data, and how to format the data we are getting back. Okay, so if you want to see this server here, localhost 4000, which queries we are providing here, click here schema. Or actually, let's click here docs. Okay, so here are only the types of the data we'll be getting. Don't worry about them. Let's click here docs. All right, and here, actually, I cannot make it wider. All right. Here in the docs, you can specify what queries this GraphQL server specifies. The simplest one of these queries is a hello query. It's the simplest one, this hello query. So when you will make a POST request specifying hello query, you should get back some message. Let's try it out. Okay, so how we can write a query in the GraphQL? We can make a query in the GraphQL by writing query like this, curly brackets, name of the query, hello. Okay, so I am making POST request. There's going POST request from here, which is specifying this query. This query will be specified in the request body. I will show it to you later. Don't worry about this right now. So in the request body, we'll specify query hello. And as soon as I will click this here, this will make a request. And this will get me back from the server message hello world. I can show it to you in our code. Let's go back here. In our index.js, there is a query. You can see hello, which is returning string. And this query here is a function. Let me find here, somewhere down here, hello. Or it'll be somewhere down here, node, hello. It's a simple function returning hello world. So that's how we are communicating with the GraphQL server. We are sending POST request with a query, which is stringified in the body of the request, and we are returning back the hello world. So that's how our server works. And of course, this is the most simple query I have defined just for testing. We are getting back hello world when we are executing query. Maybe when we'll inspect this, let's inspect this. Let's right click here, inspect. Let's see here network, so maybe I can show you how this looks like. So let's make a request. Let's click here. And you should see here. Yeah, that's a query we are making. So you can see here, we are making a request localhost 4000 / GraphQL. It's a post request. You can see that's very important. It has to be post request. And in the post request body here, we are specifying here this query. So you can see here this request payload, we are specifying this query in the string format. It's just simply the curly brackets, some spaces, and the hello there in the query. Hello keyword. And this will provide information to the server how to fetch the data and in which format. Okay, I think we are getting, now I think it's more understandable. So let's try to make some more difficult queries. Let's specify a query which will fetch me all of the products specified in the JSON file I have showed you. So in the server file, all these products. Let's click here on the docs. Again, we can see here what queries we have here available. And what we are looking here for is this products. All right? When you will click at this, you will open it because the queries has a GraphQL has a graph structure. So everything is oriented into the graphs. I will show you also this. You can see here, this is returning the product connection. Okay, this query is returning product connection. You can see here product connection consists of this. Product connection consists of the page info and the edges. Let's click here on the edges. You can see here edges is the array of the edges. When something is wrapped in a square brackets, it means it's an array. So we're writing edges, product edge type of the array of this type. And this is returning cursor and a node. And a node is a product. And on a product, we have defined these types here. We have defined their ID, title, handle, description HTML, vendor, price range, options, and so on. So that's describing the shape of our data, how we will get them back. So when we'll make a query to get the products, we will get a product connection. On product connection, we have an edges array. Edges is a simple structure of the cursor on a node, and a node is the product itself defining this shape of the data. So let's try to replicate it, okay? So how can I close it now? Like this. All right, so let's make here a query, okay? I will comment this out for now, so I comment this down. And I will make here a new query, okay? So let's write here query, curly brackets. All right, and now we'll be specifying here the query name, products. All right, this query is special because it also accepts arguments. I can specify arguments like this, where I can specify the first, like this. And I'll say here first 100. Actually, there should be column like this. And now curly brackets like this. What this first means that I'm just specifying here argument that I would like to fetch first 100 products. That's it. That's basically it. I want to fetch here first 100 products. You can also here see it, I guess, in the docs here. When I click on the products, here you can see products up here. Definition of a product is accepting this first, which is an integer, and they should get me how many products I will specify here. All right, guys, so first 100 products. And now we can follow the shape of a data I'm specifying in a docs. So products will get me product connection, and on the product connection, we have edges and page info. So I can get here now. I can write here page info, curly brackets. On the page info, we have what? Let's click here on page info. On page, we have a start cursor, end cursor, has next page, has previous page. Okay, so let's specify I would like to get from my server only has next page and has previous page. Okay, now we have exit page info. I can go on another level like this. Let's write here space. And then we have edges. On the edges, all right, I have now on the edges, I will specify here, let's write here curly brackets. On the edges, I will click here on the edge. All right, on the edges, we have a cursor and a node. Okay, so edges, here we have a cursor, we can specify. And then we have here on the edge, we have a node like this, curly brackets. And on a node, we can get, click on a node, on a node, we can get ID, title, handle. Okay, so let's get ID, title, handle. I don't care about the other things for now. So I can specify here now ID, title, handle. Okay, guys, so one more time. Now we are making post request to localhost 4000 / GraphQL with a request in this format. This will be stringified query, and the arguments products, first 100, and the shape of the data I'm getting back is specified here. Okay, so you can imagine this is a query, the name of the query, and the arguments, and here this curly bracket specify the query body, so the data we are getting back in which format. So we are getting the page info, has next page, has previous page, and the edges we have a cursor, node, and ID title handle. So now when I will execute this query, when this query will go to my server, I should get this data in the exact format. You can see on the top here, we have a data. Okay, that's something defined by the GraphQL. But here we have products. You can see the name of the query is a product. So we are getting here products. Under the products, we have this body. So page info. In a page info, we have a next page, has previous page, has next page, has previous page. Then we have edges. Here are edges. And in the edges, we have cursor. You can see cursor for 3 products. And on the same level as the cursor, we have a node. So that's a node here. And node specifying ID title handle. So you can see ID title handle. And here is the ID title and the handle. So we are making post request specifying this query to our GraphQL server. GraphQL server will process the query, will execute a function to fetch a data from a database. You don't need to know how it works. And depending of this query here, how we are specifying the shape of the data, it will return this data back to us. As you can see here, if I want to specify here more properties, I can specify here images, or specify something else for now. Let's specify here what we have here. Let's see docs. Let's say vendor. Okay, so I want to see vendor, so I will see here vendor, execute this, and here will get me vendor. So I will get what I am asking for, and that's a huge benefit of a GraphQL query language. Will provide a query, and I will get back a data in the shape I have provided in the query. All right, so that's one thing with the queries. Okay, so now we have tested out query hello, query products. I would like to show you one more thing, that you can also provide the name of the query. Name of the query you can treat as the name of the function. When you will provide the name of the query, you can access your query by its name. Okay, well, and it's also maybe more understandable in some cases. So, for example, in my testing environment, where we have just testing our functionality, I will define the query name. It's very simple. You just write the query, and you can specify any query name you want. Let's say get products, and you need to. Yeah, actually, I don't need to do anything else, I guess. Get products, and now it should work. Okay, so now I will execute this. You can see we are getting our data as before. Now we are maybe asking what's the benefit. The benefit is when I have 2 queries here. Let's uncomment this. I'll specify here name also for a hello query. So I'll call it, let's say, get hello. Get hello. Now when I will execute this, I can access, you can see, I can already have here 2 options. I have here get hello. I can call it get hello because I can access it by its name. And when I will get here get products, I will be executing this query here. Okay, so now I can easily test both queries in one file I'm specifying here. Okay, then I would be providing here one anonymous query like this. This is considered as an anonymous query. You can see here it's unnamed here, and I will execute it. I will get the error, so that's why I'll providing here name get hello, get products, and you can choose whatever name you want, and under this name you can execute a query. Okay, so that's your decision. You can make an anonymous query, or you can make a query with a name, which also you can then have some benefits to it when you are executing here. All right, guys. So just to recap, guys, because this can be a lot of informations here. The server we have just integrated is working with the GraphQL API. Okay, so this server is defining some schema, the types of the data we are providing. Also, it specifies the JSON file, which is the collection of all of our data. You can treat it as a database. Since our server is a GraphQL server, we need to make to the server GraphQL queries in order to retrieve the data. What we are making here are queries that you can find always in a docs. So when you click on docs, you can see all the queries and mutation you can perform. When you will click on the specific query, you can see here what data you need to provide in the argument of the query and what data are getting returned. Product connection. In this case, type of a product connection is specifying this data in this graph structure. So we have edges. On the edges we have a node, and a node we have this structure here. Okay, so when we are making query, making post request, providing query in, server will respond with the data. Okay, so that's two queries for the starter, and let's wrap it up here. It's already going for too long. Let's continue next lecture, and I will show you how Shopify API looks like, because the Shopify API, which will be integrating later, the actual real Shopify API, is specifying exactly the same queries I have just wrote here, and you can test them out in a GraphQL Shopify environment. Okay, yeah, so that's it for now. Make sure your both of the servers are up and running, and let's continue in the next one. If you have any questions, just ask them. Cheers.